What's up, everybody? It's the Apothecary here, and today I have a very, very special episode for you. I used two varies this week. I only use one usually. But the reason I use two varies is because I have two guests this week. I know, switching it up a bit. First guest I have, to my left here, is a very good friend of mine, very talented filmmaker, Mr. Max Rousso. Say hi, Max.
Hi, Max.
And next to Max, I have a guy who you already know, Mr. Matthew Paterson. Say hi,
Max.
Matt. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun episode this week. We're going to be talking about just like screenwriters and screenplays and all that jazz. Just like how we feel about them, like our favorite ones, and like just how we feel they impact movies overall. So it should be fun. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First, we're going to just go ahead and cover specific screenwriters. There are a lot, obviously, out there that we could talk about, and I have a lot here in my script, but I doubt very seriously we're going to be able to talk about everybody. But I'll do my best to talk about as many as possible. First one, I feel like we got to talk about, just because he's a huge, huge hero of mine personally, and I think he's on like the modern screenwriter Hall of Fame for sure, is Aaron Sorkin. Basically, like, we're going to talk about like specific screenplays later on, but like, well, no, I guess, yeah, we can go ahead and do that now since we're talking about like their work and stuff. But like anything that this guy has ever written, I can't think of one thing that I've seen that he's written that like isn't fucking A+.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, he wrote a lot of episodes of The West Wing, and they're all good.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the, it's funny, because he's, like, most well-known for The West Wing, and that's, like, the only thing from him that I haven't seen. I haven't seen any of his TV shows. Like, the only thing from the newsroom I've seen is that famous clip online where, like, Jeff Daniels goes on the big tirade. You know, that was a very well-written speech, and obviously he also wrote, I think what would be considered by a lot of people one of his best, if not his best thing. I don't think that it is, but I think it's still pretty good. The Social Network, which you know, had a lot of great dialogue.
You know, I think like there's a lot what can make a screenplay good, but Aaron Sorkin, his thing is the dialogue.
Right.
And I think that's sort of all I think of when I think of Aaron Sorkin. See, I don't really know too much about him if I'm being honest, but just like that's sort of all I hear about. So like, have you guys read any of his like actual screenplays?
Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't actually read the screenplay, but obviously I've, like, seen the movies, and I know, like, a lot of edits are made, but, like, it's still his work, so, that's actually something I need to do more often, is, like, read screenplays, because, like, it does, I've read a couple before, and it makes a big difference, you know?
Seen, they do this thing now, it's pretty cool, I like that they do it. It's like, you know, I see it on Facebook or Instagram, and it'll be, like, the scene from a movie, and under it'll be the script, like, just scrolling.
Right.
And they did it for, I've seen it done for Steve Jobs and The Social Network. Mm-hmm. And just based on what I saw there, because there was minor changes, it's, I mean, you know, it's pretty clear, like, you know, I don't know, when I, like, read it in the screenplay, I, like, it seemed pretty, like, you know.
Right.
Like, you know,
and that's the thing is, like, I feel like he's gotten to a point in his career where, like, most directors respect him enough not to change any of his dialogue, because they know how talented he is.
Yeah.
And then, like, singling out specific things he's written, like, obviously the big scene in The Social Network that, like, he's well known for is the big part where he's like, do you think I deserve any of your attention?
Yeah.
And he gives, like, that big response, and that was, I'd say, one of the most well-written scenes in the movie, if not the most well...
The opening scene?
Was that the opening scene?
That
was later on.
Yeah, I think it was like in the middle.
Or he's at the bar with the girl? Or?
No.
That was also a very well-written scene, yeah, where he's with Rooney Mara.
Yeah. There's a lot of well-written scenes in that movie, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's Aaron Sorkin, so obviously he's...
Yeah.
And then, here's the weird thing, though. Everybody just loves that movie, loves that script, and I like it, right? But then, like, when it comes to, like, another one he wrote, Steve Jobs, right? Everybody just kind of likes that one but doesn't love it. For me, it's like switched, because like
I love that.
I thought the screenplay for Steve Jobs was outstanding. I was so pissed off that I don't even think it got nominated for an Oscar.
Ashton Kutcher, Steve Jobs?
No, the Michael Fassbender one.
I haven't seen that. No.
That's good. Yeah.
That one, yeah, the Ashton Kutcher one sucks.
Yeah, Danny
I haven't seen that one either. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, Danny Boyle did it, so. But Yeah, and that one was just like, it was very Sorkin-y, you know, just a lot of really snappy, like, back and forth,
It reminded me of a play, almost.
Yeah, which he used to be a playwright.
Oh, yeah.
And...
Which I guess why his dialogue's so good, really.
Right, because with a play, obviously, that's like...
all there is to a play, really.
Right. There are no camera angles or anything like that. You just have to mostly... I mean, blocking, obviously. Direction is still important in theater. But, like... so much of it comes from the dialogue.
I mean, he said, like, I heard he said that one of his, like, inspirations was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I saw it as a kid, and I just recently started that on Netflix, and the dialogue in that is very snappy, very...
Is it?
Yeah, and I'm like, I can see where Aaron Sorkin, like, liked this as a kid, because it's very, like, back and forth, you know?
That's always nice to, like, see where they get their influences from, you know? And, like, just kind of feel how similar it is like that. And also, just one of his, another one of his best screenplays. It's hard to compare them all; they're so good. A Few Good Men, I think that was his first one, and that was a play at first too. And you can kind of tell,
yeah.
But like and that's a lot of times when playwrights adapt their own scripts, to the screen, it doesn't go well. But like,
you know, Rob Reiner directing too.
Yeah, that helped him a lot. Yeah. But like also. There are just times where they don't want to change anything, even though it needs to be changed sometimes. They just kind of do the exact same thing as the play, even though it's a different medium. But he adapted that very well. And a kind of underrated script he wrote that was just a few years ago. Molly's Game. You see that?
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was all right.
That was
movie?
Molly's Game with Jessica Chastain.
I haven't seen that.
He directed that, too.
Yeah.
That was weird. That was his first time directing. You could kind of tell, but not that he did a bad job.
Yeah,
but
I didn't hate it.
No, yeah, I thought
I was hoping for better. I liked it. I just, for Aaron Sorkin, I was like, damn.
I mean, it wasn't like, again, A Few Good Men style, like West Wing style, but like, it was worthy of him, I thought. It was a pretty good script.
Yeah, that was a good script.
He also wrote Charlie Wilson's War, which...
Yeah, that one.
That was a really good... That had, I think one of the best things he's ever written was the scene where Tom Hanks and Philip Seymour Hoffman are out there on the terrace, and he's just like, here's why you don't get it. Like, here's, like, what the situation is like. Like somebody, like something happens to this kid and he says like, look what happened to me. This is like terrible. And like, he goes to a wise man and says all this, and the wise man says, we'll see. And then this other thing happens and he says, well, look what happened now. And the wise man keeps saying, we'll see. And he's just like, if you just keep, I forget exactly what the point of the scene was, but like, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's like one of his best written scenes. And yeah, just, hell of a writer, I think, and like, even though you haven't really seen any of his stuff, like the fact that you still know him and know his style speaks a lot to like how big he is, because that isn't true of like almost any screenwriter, like most screenwriters unfortunately aren't that well known, but like his style is so well known that like people, even if they haven't seen his stuff, are familiar with it, so that's pretty cool. So, let's see. I'm going to go a bit out of order here, because it's my script and I can do whatever I want. How about you guys pick somebody?
Charlie Kaufman?
Well, yeah, that's a must.
Yeah.
If we're doing one about screenwriters, we got to talk about Charlie Kaufman.
That guy is, like... all of his work is incredibly personal, which is what I really like about him, honestly. Like, it's definitely something that comes from deep within him every time he makes something.
Yeah, it seems like, because Adaptation seemed like a very personal movie.
Well, Synecdoche, New York is also very...
I still need to see that. I've heard that's like one of his best screenplays.
Yeah. It is.
He obviously was he was very sad about something when he made
Isn't he always, though? Like, it seems like every movie of his I've ever watched, he's like always kind of just like... letting out his grief about something.
Isn't Adaptation like about him?
Yeah, it's about him.
Well, yeah,
it's about him being John Malkovich and then trying to make an adaptation of a
Really?
book.
Yeah, it's like semi-autobiographical, where it's like halfway real, where it's like it's him, and it's about him trying to like adapt a really hard-to-adapt book, but then it kind of ventures into fantastical territory where he's involved in this like kind of murder plot sort of thing.
And
Synecdoche was like... it was like a meta piece about an artist trying to make art about life, but it's like it's definitely like comes from him, like it's definitely about him and how sad he is, so like, it's a very interesting how he takes stuff from himself, I think.
That's always really nice to see.
I feel like adaptation was him in his like maybe late 20s, early 30s, like struggling before he had everything figured out, and then Synecdoche, New York was after he had shit figured out, but he was just, like sad about,
Right.
Because it's a lot more mature, I guess, of a script. Not that adaptation is a mature movie, but like comparatively, one is definitely a lot more like, different levels, I would say. Not that, either of them are different. It's just, different, I guess, or bad. So I like them both.
And then, an adaptation is also one of those movies where, like, they say, for, like, every medium, in this business, like, if you want to learn how to do this, then watch this movie. Like we were saying last time, like, if you want to, like, direct, watch, like, a Sidney Lumet movie or something like that. If you want to be inspired as a screenwriter, watch adaptation. Like, one of my favorite, probably, scenes ever is like the scene where Brian Cox is like, he's teaching the screenwriting class and Nicolas Cage is in the audience and he's like, well, why don't you just like write a screenplay that's more realistic, like real life, where nothing happens? And he goes, nothing happens in real life? Like, all these things happen in the world and you can't find something exciting to write about? I've got no time for that. And I'm just like, wow, that was, that just really, I thought was, like, that, in addition to the rest of the movie, was very inspiring to hear, like, as a screenwriter, it, like, which is ironic because normally I feel like if you take a screenwriting class, and they say this in the movie too, then, that's not necessarily a good thing, but, like, and a scene set in a screenwriting class actually inspires you. I feel like that's kind of ironic, but, like, and he also wrote Being John Malkovich, which, like,
it's wild. The
first time I saw that was when you guys showed it to me during that movie night, and that was just like, I had no idea what to expect. I really didn't. That was one of the most creative screenplays I think I've ever seen. Like, and I think that was the first thing I'd ever seen that he had written. So like that was, I think, a very good first thing to introduce me to him. And like just his wildly imaginative, sort of writing.
Yeah.
Either of you guys see Anomalisa?
No, I've heard of it though.
Because he did that, and I really wanted to see it, but because it's him, and I heard it was great. But yeah, I've heard that's another one of his really good ones. And then here's a guy I know we all know, Vince Gilligan. Like, because we've all seen Breaking Bad in this room, right?
How much of that was actually his writing?
Fair point, but like, he came up with the story and he wrote a lot of the best episodes, because I actually looked at like every one of the writers on the show. And first of all, like, every one of the writers on that show deserves credit, because that's like, if you were like a regular writer on Breaking Bad, then you're like, up there with the greats, like in television writing history. And they're still doing good work on Better Call Saul too. But Vince Gilligan and all his writers on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, fantastic. And like I said, Gilligan wrote a lot of the show's best episodes, which shows you that like it's not just like the staff did their part, because like, I mean, Ozymandias was written by Maura Wally Beckett, who like, deserved her Emmy, deserved every single thing she got for that, because that was like the greatest episode of TV ever, basically. But yeah, he's just like, a lot of TV writers have inspired me a lot, with each TV show I watch, like the showrunners for each of those shows kind of like inspire me, and he's at the top of the list. But same goes for Noah Hawley, the creator of Fargo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't, like, his whole thing with making the Fargo shows that, like, he got to plan out the whole season, which it's usually, like, you get a pilot, and then you get to see where the show goes from there, but he got the opportunity to just, like, get the whole thing written down.
Really?
That's what I heard, is that, like, with that, at least the first season, he was lucky enough to be able to get the entire show written and conceived before, like, because most shows are just the pilot, and then they go from there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
Didn't know that. That is nice.
Makes sense, because it was really well crafted,
Yeah, each season
yeah.
is exquisitely well crafted. I can't wait for season 4.
The second season's actually not that bad.
I watched the first episode. I like the first episode.
Here's the thing about season 2. Like, seasons 1 and 2 are basically perfect, but like, And I like season 1 more, but season 2 is actually, like, perfect. It is, like, an unbelievable... Like, it's the best season of the show, I feel like.
Honestly, in the first season, I feel like at least further along in the show, it just got way too far-fetched, I think.
Like, for example...
Like, when they cut to the future when he was, like, suave and, like, confident.
And he's engaged, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm gonna kill my Asian wife, and then...
That took me off guard, the time jump and all that.
Yeah, the time... I did not expect it, but I liked it, though.
And then he ran onto the ice. It was just like, I think this is all happening because it's cool, not because it's, like, good for the story, you know?
Oh, I was thinking more like thin ice, and also, like, that fish poster that he was wearing orange.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, and it said, what if you're, like, going the wrong way? Mm-hmm. And then he was out there in the eyes, fish in the water type thing. That's what I was thinking when I saw it.
Fair enough. I just thought, like, just from a realism standpoint, like, because I feel like, especially with, I don't know, Fargo, I think it feels like a realistic story, not like something that could be far-fetched.
Well, the movie was kind of far-fetched, like in that Coen Brothers way, where it's like realistic but also a little over the top.
Yeah,
but
I mean, season 2's kind of far-fetched at like 2 specific points.
Well, the alien thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you see that?
No, don't spoil it.
Well,
it's not really like a big part of the story.
Yeah, not at all.
It's
but
just like
aliens.
Kind of, not really. It's like occasionally like a flying saucer will show up, and that's like a big part of the story.
Like Deus Ex Machina type thing.
It's not really like that important. Like there are no aliens that are seen.
Well,
it's just
I don't
like
know. At least with stories I like and stories I write, at least I like. If it's gonna be that, I feel like that kind of world should be established earlier. You know.
Well, it literally shows up twice, and they just show up, and they're not even alien. It's just like.
Well, the first
and it just shows, and then it goes away.
The first time is in like the first or second episode.
Yeah,
though, right?
It's in the first or second.
And there are a bunch of posters that like you spot throughout the show that have like the flying saucers on them. It's like kind of like a recurring thing throughout the season that they thread gently.
Yeah, but honestly, like other than that, the story is like there's no like
other than that,
yeah,
it's like very grounded,
very grounded.
Yeah,
there's the times where I thought characters were dead as fuck. And more, like 2 episodes later, I'm like, damn,
yeah,
they're still alive, and I'm like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. But it's good shit. Sorry.
And then
it's good shit.
Yeah, very good shit. And season 3 was pretty good too.
I did see season 3 actually.
A lot of people thought that one was a bit weaker, and okay, it was the weakest season of the show, but it was still really well written, really well, just like everything.
I forgot about that. I definitely watched that. It was good.
I liked it. And he also created Legion.
Yeah,
which I desperately need to see, because like if it's from him, you've got me.
Right.
And then again on just the overall like Screenwriters Hall of Fame, Lawrence Kasdan, who I respect the hell out of him, but I'm also he wrote Raiders, Empire Strikes Back,
The Big Chill,
Return of the Jedi, The Big Chill, The Bodyguard,
Han Solo, Star Wars,
which I'm still mad at him for. Here's the thing, Lawrence Kasdan is a legend, right? And I acknowledge that, but like, I'm so mad at him because of Solo. It's not even just because of how bad the script is. It's because he's the guy who got Lord and Miller fired. And, because they weren't following his screenplay word for word, which of course they weren't. That almost never happens. And you know that. But, like, whatever. He was just a really big baby about it, And he thought he was going to get to come in and direct it after that, but no. I do respect the fact that, like, obviously, he wrote both Raiders and Empire Strikes Back, so that makes him and then he's got the whole rest of his body of work, huh?
He did the Force Awakens too, right?
He did, yeah, that's right.
And the Force Awakens, I like that script, or I like them,
Yeah, I'm not gonna do much Star Wars talk here because that can be pretty divisive these days. But yeah, I did like the Force Awakens. I thought he did a good job with it. But now he's done with Star Wars, so that might be for the best. And then another guy who who you want?
I just pointed at Tony Gilroy.
Tony Gilroy? Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if you were going with that or who you were going with next.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was going to get to him eventually, probably. He is, again, one of my biggest heroes ever. Wrote all the Bourne movies except the 5th one, and it shows. And he did the rewrites for Rogue One, actually.
I think I heard about that.
Yeah, he saved that movie. Cause,
really? I mean, I thought it was great.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It was great, but that's because he came in and rewrote a bunch of it.
Oh, damn.
And you can tell he didn't rewrite the first act very much because I thought the first act was actually kind of iffy. And then once the second act started is when it kind of picked up. But yeah, and then he also did a very underrated movie, and he directed it too, because he directs sometimes. Michael Clayton. You ever seen that?
I heard of that, actually. I tried watching it once.
Supremely underrated movie. That one of George Clooney's absolute best performances. Tilda Swinton did win an Oscar for it, but like most people just haven't heard of it or don't talk about it much, which is unfortunate because it's extremely well written because it was written by Tony Gilroy.
I got it on DVD, actually.
Oh, you do?
I think I do out there.
Nice. I wish I had it on DVD. Yeah, so Tony Gilroy, he's awesome. I'm convinced he ghost wrote Nightcrawler.
Didn't he write Nightcrawler?
No, his brother Dan Gilroy did Nightcrawler.
That makes
but
sense.
Considering the fact that Dan Gilroy hasn't done anything anywhere near as good since then.
You know what? That is a good point, actually.
Did he do Velvet Buzzsaw?
He did Velvet Buzzsaw.
Wait, Dan Gilroy or Tony Gilroy?
Dan Gilroy did.
See,
and
he
I thought Tony Gilroy did Velvet Buzzsaw. I was wondering why that was so, kind of bad.
Right,
wait, Dan Gilroy hasn't made anything else besides those two movies, right?
He did Roman J. Israel, which was the garbage fire of the movie.
He did, okay. I keep thinking that was Tony Gilroy, and I was wondering why his movies were so bad. It's his brother that keeps...
Yeah. That's why I'm convinced. Yeah.
Just my theory was that just, he got all this buzz from... Nightcrawler, but then he just got really pretentious and was like, I just want to do whatever the fuck I want. It was so pretentious. It was just the whole movie was just like
Velvet Buzzsaw.
Yeah,
if you kept Velvet Buzzsaw a little more contained, I felt like it would have been better. But it just kind of got too out of whack.
Velvet Buzzsaw was a movie that had a lot of potential, but he just had no idea what to do with it, and he was kind of overly pretentious. And it was really scattered. Most of the characters had no purpose at all, you know.
Yeah, the way they died was just stupid. It didn't even refer to them as a character.
It wasn't really they weren't satisfying or creative either. I saw the trailer and I'm like, this looks interesting. Mm-hmm. I hope this isn't everything in the movie. And
Basically, it was all the exciting stuff because everything else was just them sitting around and Jake Gyllenhaal going, art. That's art.
But I don't know. You got the I thought it was going to be something more than just the art kills people. I thought there was going to be some underlying thing, but it's
and there was, but they didn't go into it.
But also, the kills were not creative.
Most of them weren't, but the one where it was the tattoo, I thought that was creative. I'd never seen a kill like that before.
At the very end of the movie?
Yeah.
I looked at that, I was like, it's gonna buzzsaw her. Oh.
Right, but
I know, I saw that coming.
I didn't see it coming until the last second. I was like, oh, it's about, and then 2 seconds later, and I was like, oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, but it's not, I thought the paintings that the fucking... That's the demon guy. I thought that killed people, not tattoos. It's all art.
Yeah, again, they didn't explain it very well. Where it was so any art that they encounter, because the one girl gets killed by the street art on the side of the building.
Yeah,
and it was okay, I guess any art can do it now. So and because of that, and because never watched Roman J. Israel, that I've never seen a movie more devoid of a reason to exist than that one. Because of those two, I'm convinced Tony Gilroy ghost wrote Nightcrawler because he was a producer on that movie. And
what if
did he direct Nightcrawler?
No, Dan Gilroy wrote and directed it.
Oh, okay.
But Tony Gilroy was a producer, so I think.
No, but really, what if it was just he was trying to coach his pretentious little brother. He's like, no, you gotta do this, it'll be great. And now
probably
the moment he leaves him alone to do something, it's just I'm the best. I wrote Nightcrawler.
Basically. And I've seen Dan Gilroy in interviews, and he kind of seems like that kind of guy where he was doing a press tour for Velvet Buzzsaw, and he's just yeah, but this movie, I kind of just wanted to cover all of these. Just the way he was talking, I was like, you kind of seem like you're a little full of yourself, even though you've made one good movie so far. And it was so funny because Jake Gyllenhaal kept getting frustrated with him in the interview. I've had enough of this guy's shit.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal in the movie. I'll give him actor's credit.
He tried.
Did a good job.
He tried.
He's the only actor who really tried.
The rest just kind of knew what movie they were in.
Even Tony Collette was just I'm just gonna scream and that'll be fun.
Tony Collette was I just did Hereditary. I don't have to prove myself ever again.
Right.
Let's see, who's next? Jonathan Nolan, big one. Who's finally getting his due diligence with Westworld. Although a lot of people did not like the second season.
I haven't seen it.
Which
Third season looks pretty good though.
Yeah, with Aaron Paul, I'm excited.
Yeah.
But he obviously has like written a bunch of stuff because he has co-written a lot of Christopher Nolan's movies.
Interstellar, right?
Yeah, Interstellar.
Yeah.
Like
Inception.
all of them except for Memento and Inception.
Oh, he didn't do Inception?
Memento, Inception, I think Following, and Insomnia are the only ones he didn't do.
Okay,
According to this, Jonathan Nolan wrote like a short story. It must have been like based off.
He wrote the short story that they based Memento on. But then Christopher Nolan wrote the actual screenplay.
It's kind of fucked up. At least like Jonathan Nolan's like, look at this awesome story I wrote, and Christopher Nolan's like, yeah.
No, but like the way that went actually is they were like taking a road trip apparently, and Jonathan Nolan was like pitching him the story, and Christopher Nolan was like, "Can I use that?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure."
Okay.
and then he just like actually kind of changed a lot of the short story.
Yeah. It's kind of.
So, but I think he got Jonathan's approval.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just
But that would be
hypothetically.
fucked up if that like actually happened. But yeah, he could
Zucked him.
say what?
He fucking zucked him.
Yeah. But yeah, that's he's a super talented writer, and I think Westworld was like the first time he really got to showcase just his talents, because that's the one thing people have always kind of talked about is like, well, what's Christopher and what's Jonathan in all those movies? Like, you don't know which one is contributing to what. And with Westworld, he got the chance to like be like, no, this is my style. This is like my talent. Here you go. Him and his wife that he co-writes the show with, Lisa Joy, who is also a very talented writer.
Is that the movie Joy? It was based off of her?
Yeah, maybe that would have been more exciting.
Shut the fuck up,
Maybe
man.
that would have been more exciting, because Joy was one of the worst things I've ever seen. But they're both really talented, and he also wrote this show that I've heard about but never seen called Person of Interest, which
I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I can see him doing like the 24 style like spy show, really well.
Did he do Fringe?
I feel like he might have.
I don't know. I something about, maybe I'm thinking about Lost and the same people, but no.
I think
Or did he do? He didn't do Lost.
he may have done. No, J.J. Abrams did.
Lost. I'm just trying to think of the writer on Lost.
Damon Lindelof.
Ah, that's who it is.
Who we will not be talking about here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's the most hit or miss, usually miss writer ever. And then so Terrence Winter, another one, who has only written I think one movie. At least
he cannot have only written.
He's written a bunch of
Wall
TV.
Street. Yeah, I was about to say.
Like, but as far as movies go, Wolf of Wall Street, and then he was a writer on The Sopranos for a pretty long time for most of the show, and then he did Boardwalk Empire.
Boardwalk Empire. I love that show.
Talking about, they're not even on the list, but I'm just gonna have an aside about the Sopranos writers. David Chase is fucking amazing, and that was one thing I loved about the Sopranos is how unconventional it was. Like, he made a point of like trying not to be too Hollywood with it, and like trying to just make it really like fresh, and like we're not gonna follow the conventions and stuff. Like, a lot of the times that characters died on that show is in a very shocking and like unconventional way. Like, one of the main characters on the show like dies in a car crash in the first 10 minutes of an episode, and like the rest of the episode is them like this is one of the main characters on the show, and it's not like some big like shootout like you would expect, It's like a car crash in the first like 10 minutes of an episode, and like that's it, he's dead like for the whole rest of the show. And it was like super shocking, and that was something I loved about it. And obviously it goes to show the writing talent on that show, like how talented they all were, when like all of the main writers on that show went on to create a really popular show later on, because Terrence Winter created Boardwalk Empire, Matthew Weiner created Mad Men, and Robin Green and Mitchell Burgess created Blue Bloods. So like, that's really insane. Just an aside. Anybody off the top of your heads, or anybody here, you guys care to talk about it all?
Alan Ball. He's the guy who wrote American.
We will not be discussing that hack piece of garbage.
What about 6
Alan
Feet
Ball?
Under?
I haven't seen 6 Feet Under, but if it's from Alan Ball, I'm sure it sucks ass.
He's the guy who wrote American Beauty.
One of the worst fucking movies of all time, in my opinion.
Shut the fuck up.
It is
6 Feet Under.
It is
and True
horrible.
That
American Beauty is one of the
quality
worst
is subjective, bro.
6 Feet
fucking
Under is
movies
actually
ever.
6 Feet Under is actually really good.
I mean,
Beauty's actually pretty.
I've heard
I
it's.
like. Yeah, I love American.
I've heard
Beauty,
it's kind of
But
pretentious.
also,
but
I heard like American Beauty. The only reason why it's the way it is because like it's not because like in the editing room they cut the last 20 minutes and added a bunch of voiceover, and that's what made the movie the way it is. It used to be like a crime drama or something.
I like the way they did it. Then.
Like it used.
I thought it was just. I don't know. I remember hearing the script was really good. That's why in the special features.
I don't know. I saw a thing that said that like there was another 20 minutes of the film where like the dude and the girl go to court for the murder of Kevin Spacey, and then like you know that they use the footage of the girl saying like, oh, would you kill him, you know, and it used to be just a completely different movie with a completely different meaning, and it was like not about how this guy's like finding new purpose in life, honestly. And I don't care what you think; it's a great movie. But Kevin Spacey's a creep. But,
I mean, you know, opinions are opinions.
But like it's funny because like the screenplay isn't usually what makes it. Could be what makes the movie, but also the editing is like the final say.
The editing is very important, and I guess that proves that.
Sam Mendes did that, or wait, if there's I don't know if it was the editor's idea or if it was Sam Mendes who was like,
or maybe
we
the
need
studio,
something, studio, somebody, whoever thought of that was like, damn.
It may have been the studio because I've heard Sam Mendes say before that even he doesn't get what all the fuss is about with that movie, or he's just like
with what movie?
With American Beauty, or he's like I'm proud of it obviously, but I don't get why everyone loves it so much because like it's gotten to a point where more people are starting to kind of agree with me where they're just like, yeah, maybe we overpraised this a little too much, and he's just like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen eventually. Like even back when we made it, I knew this was going to happen eventually.
I think we all just like watching a dude getting his shit together, you know.
Yeah, but yeah, that's enough about Alan Ball. God, I really hate him.
I forgot for a second that you didn't like American Beauty until I said it.
I specifically did not put him on this list because I was like, if there's one person we're not discussing, it's him and Derek Connolly.
Derek Connolly?
Yeah, fuck him.
What'd he do?
Jurassic World, Kong Skull Island, a bunch of shitty. Book of Henry, I'm pretty sure. Steven Zaillian. Another big one on the Modern Hall of Fame.
He did. I heard.
He wrote Schindler's List. That is enough to get you in the Hall of Fame.
I thought didn't he also do Gold?
Did he?
And the Syriana? Or am I thinking of a different guy?
He did not do Syriana, but
I'm thinking of a different guy.
I feel that would surprise me if he did Gold.
Different guy.
He did Schindler's List. He did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah, different guy.
The Night of. A bunch of
The Night of with
Moneyball.
Seth Rogen in them?
No, The Night of the miniseries with John Turturro.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. I was like, that's a leap.
Yeah, but the reason, like, I've always really respected him, but the movie that really got me to love him was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, because, like, I mean, obviously Fincher was a huge part of why that movie was so good, but to me his script was also just, like, you know, top-notch. And, you know, doing an adaptation, it's very easy to botch it, especially if it's, like, a beloved series of novels like that. So, and he did a good job adapting it, and Fincher did a good job, you know, putting his touch on it too. And I think he co-wrote Gangs of New York, so he and Scorsese pal around, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah.
And then I guess we'll just move on from. I have a bunch of people here. Maybe we'll.
I have some in my head.
Maybe we'll circle back around later on because there are some more people I want to talk about, but I feel like should probably go ahead and move on to just specific screenplays. And whoever I don't mention, I will shout out later towards the end.
I was about to say, I remembered who I thought I was thinking of.
Oh, you can go ahead and name one more person.
I can't say his last name for the life of me. Jim Jarmusch.
Jim Jarmusch?
Fuck! God damn it.
Yeah.
I've been doing that since I was, like, whenever I discovered him.
Yeah.
Jim Jarmusch.
That's a guy who, like... Have I seen any of his stuff?
You haven't seen any, like...
I think I've seen maybe one of his movies, and I can't remember which one it was. But I really, really want to see his stuff, because I know he's, like, really talented and, like, a really big, obviously, indie guy.
Yeah.
I've heard Paterson was really good.
I've loved Paterson.
I heard Only Lovers Left Alive was pretty good.
I haven't seen that. But
Coffee and Cigarettes.
Seen that. I actually own that.
The main reason I want to see Coffee and Cigarettes is because there's a scene where Bill Murray talks to RZA and Jizza, which I need to see. Yeah.
There's a scene with Tom Waits and Iggy Pop.
That's amazing.
There's like a lot of good like actors that pop up in that fucking movie. It's a really good movie. Yeah. Really good script too, because like they literally just sit there and talk.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to have good dialogue.
Right.
There's like Roberto Benigni and Stephen Wright.
I've heard that's a weird combination.
Yeah, it's really good though, because
Wow.
like he's like zany and Stephen Wright's just sitting there all chill. You know?
Huh.
Good
Interesting.
Good shit.
Well, all right. We'll probably circle back around to that later. For now, we'll just talk about specific screenplays. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and let Max chime in on something that he was talking about before we started. Just to, like, you know, have a little break in the middle here where we, like, switch it up a little bit. Or unless you don't want to.
You mean about Mad Max?
Yeah, just about the whole, like, that whole thing you were saying about how, like, how much the screenplay matters and stuff.
Well, the screenplay definitely matters, but you know, a film is what the art is. Like, sure, there are screenwriters, but the film is the product. So, like, it's not exactly the screenplay. The screenplay is just an outline. So, like, if you look at movies like Mad Max Fury Road, that didn't have the screenplay. That had storyboards. And if you look at, like, if you think about how it would be a screenplay, it's too incredibly detailed. It would be a boring, too long screenplay of just like, oh, this happens and that happens and this person looks like that. There's just, it was a storyboard, not a screenplay.
Basically.
So, like,
for a movie like that, yeah, without much dialogue in it, you know.
But, like, it's just begs the question of, like, what the screenplay, like, how much is needed to make a good screenplay,
right,
I guess.
Right. And that's the thing is, like, I've always kind of questioned, like, what constitutes a good screenplay, whether it's, like, just the dialogue or, like, just the scripting itself, like, because you have to write the whole thing. Like, none of it happens unless you write it all down, you know?
But see, like, sometimes in movies, like, something as, like, the action can be, in the screenplay, just, the main character walks through the door.
Right.
But in the film, that can be shown in so many different ways, you know, based on whoever's directing it, I guess. But and that can have so much more, like, visual style that it's just, but in the screenplay, it's literally just he walks through the door. You know?
Right, and there are times where, like, people won't get specific about action scenes. They'll just say, like, they fight, you know, and then the director has to come up with the whole choreography and everything. So
it really depends on who's directing and who's writing, I guess, at that point, and like what their relationship is. Like, are you just getting the screenplay out of the blue and like, what is this? Like, you know, they want me to direct, or are you like, have you been talking with the writer and they kind of have an idea? So then what they give you is like not necessarily what a full, you know, like he's not trying to sell it to you because he knows you already want to make it.
Right.
So it's more like a, you know, depends on the collaboration, I think, between, you know, and how many steps away he is from the writer.
Right.
Can, you know, and sometimes, like I said, usually it's directors that don't have screenplays. They'll start doing shit sometimes, like Mad Max. I'm sure George Miller didn't, you know, have some, you know, he didn't have a writer just telling him shit on the day of. So it's like, kind of, I feel like they really depend on where you're at with, you know, in the process.
Right. And see, this is all just like very interesting to talk about, you know, because it's like good to ponder, you know, like everything that the screenwriter contributes. Because, like, to me, you know, I've always been of the opinion that the screenplay is the most important part of the movie, but it's not the only thing that matters. Like, because to me, it's like, obviously, you don't have a movie at all if you don't have the screenplay. They script just like every event that goes on, but like, see, the reason that's not the only thing that matters, obviously, is because you have directors, you have editors who can either totally botch it or they can make it better, you know. So like, even like if it's, to me, the most important thing, it's not the only important thing. It's like, you know,
see, the film is the product, not the screenplay.
Yeah.
But that's like, but you don't have directors choosing what to do or editors choosing what to, without the screen, because like that's, you know, then they don't have a job. The directors and the editors don't have a job if you don't have a guy writing the script, you know, where they can now take that script and do what they want with it. But again, it's like, that's the first step, is writing the script, and then the second step is obviously getting a director who can, you know, adapt it well to the screen.
Yeah.
And then an editor who knows how to make it look exactly right, you know, and knows what to leave out, what to, you know, what to keep. And
It was actually a very interesting story from my school. There was like some graduates from the directing program, like I think they graduated like 2 years ago or something, and they were very frustrated because they weren't like getting any work. So they just decided to make a film, and they made this film called A Great Lamp, I think, and it's like a very experimental avant-garde. Like it's very different. But their whole process was literally just talking about what they wanted to do, and they just sort of went out and improvised it and just talked to random people, and they got random people in the film. But, like, basically they did it entirely without a script, and they just talked about it the day of, and were just like, yeah, let's do this. And they made a feature film, and it got into slam dance and skating into all these festivals, and it's like, again, like, and I saw that's where I get the idea, like, the film is the product. I saw this interview with them. They're just like, yeah, like, the film is the product, you know? It doesn't really... Like, the screenplay is a part of it, but it's not what is representative of the final product, really.
Right, and it's like, at the end of the day, regardless of how important it is, like, it's one piece. Like, one important piece of a whole. They're all very important pieces.
And it's just like another way to make a film.
Right, and they all it's about, like, just how you prefer to make the movie. Because maybe you don't put as much emphasis on the screenplay. Maybe you just, like, do what they did and just kind of wing it. And projects like that you got to be very careful with, because you know you got to have a very clear like idea of what it is you're trying to do, or it won't. Because one thing I can't stand is when directors feel like they can just do whatever the fuck and it doesn't matter. Like Paul Feig does this a lot, and it pisses me off, where he just thinks he can sit his actors down at a table, have them just talk for 3 hours, and then just have that be the movie. And it's like, and it never works, like, because you see Ghostbusters, right? It's clearly just them sitting there and improvising lines the whole movie.
Ghostbusters?
I'm not proud to admit it. I'm not proud to admit it, but yes, I did. And it was like, you know, just it was clearly just them sitting down and just like improvising lines the entire movie, none of which were funny because they just said the first thing that came to their fucking heads. And I'm just thinking, like, see, this is why you need a script. Like, it's okay to improvise, because, like, the good version of that is, like, what Lord and Miller do, you know. With they allow their actors to improvise a lot, like in the Jump Street movies, and it works, but that's because they have a script, and they let the actors just kind of play around with the material, you know, and they just let them kind of use that as a base, and then just go off on their own from there. That's much better than just sitting down and just saying whatever the fuck, and just saying like, oh, they said that like a joke. That was funny. That's in the movie. I like that. Kristen Wiig said that in a very funny way, and therefore it's funny. Like, no, you gotta actually take the time to make sure the joke is funny, you know? Like, that's, you know, just, I hate it when people do that, and Paul Feig does that a lot, because I haven't actually seen The Heat, but I have seen a scene where it's like, you can tell when they're going on script and when they start to improvise, because there's a scene where Kristen Wiig is like giving a big speech to like all the cops in the room about how like, how could you say that about Melissa McCarthy? She's like the most dedicated cop on the force, and you're all being mean to her. And then like a second later, she just clearly starts going off script, and it's terrible. But she's like, fuck you and fuck you and fuck you, you motherfuckers, and fuck you. And I'm like, we get it. It's funny because you said fuck you. You don't have to say it like 20 more times. Like, you know, but Paul Feig thought, oh, she's saying it in a funny way. It doesn't matter if, like, any thought was put into it at all, you know.
Saying that, like, what do you think of, like, Freaks and Geeks?
Haven't seen it, unfortunately. You can hit me if you want.
No, you should check that out, because it's very interesting how he goes from, like, that to that, because Freaks and Geeks does feel, like, very, very, like, it's very interesting and thought out, but it doesn't feel, like, improvised. So it's, but I do see a lot of that in his recent work, like just the improvised aspect, but just like,
yeah,
wonder how he got to that point, you know.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, maybe he just got too big to care. Who knows?
Maybe he just thinks it's funny and wants to go with his gut, and
do you think
his
like
gut's never right?
Have you seen his other film, A Simple Favor?
I heard that's good.
I haven't, ever since Ghostbusters, I've just been
well, yeah, I haven't seen that, but like, it's not a comedy, so
no,
it's like it's
mystery.
It's from the darker side of Paul Feig.
I'd be interested to see how that was taken, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, considering what he's done.
I've heard, actually, I have heard semi-good things about that. Like, I haven't heard people say it was bad. I've heard people say it's like pretty. Well, that's about it. It's not like love it, but it's like, you know, it's not shitty.
I didn't trust the reviews for that one because I thought like, well, last year was the year of people liking shitty things, but. You know, no matter how ungodly bad they were, like Aquaman or Venom or Bird Box or whatever the fuck. But, yeah, and it goes to show, this is something that frustrates me, is like, people don't pay attention to dialogue, and it pisses me off. Because, like, a lot of people will just watch a movie and not really care about how good the dialogue is, and to me that's, again, a very important part of it. But, like, most people will just, like, more just kind of pay attention to what's going on rather than how well written it is. So if you've got a movie like Aquaman where people are just invested in the adventure, they're like, oh, cool, he's, like, doing adventurous things, and, oh, he's making a joke, and it's funny, and they're having, like, a deep conversation or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but the dialogue is shit. Like, you understand that, right? And they're like, well, no, it's not. Like, it's good, it's funny, it's adventurous, I like it. And I'm
Did you
like...
ever see what Ralph the Movie Maker said about Aquaman?
No.
He's just like... It's just funny because, like, James Wan, the director, knew exactly what he was getting himself into, so he just made it just fucking crazy and just fun. Because he literally, like, I know what I'm doing. I gotta, like, just make it insane. So, like...
That makes sense, because I couldn't believe that came from James Wan, because I'm like, he's a great director, and this is trash.
Well, did you see the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, see, like, that I haven't seen it, but, like, just what I heard is that he knew what he was getting himself into, so he just went all out.
Yeah.
The action scenes were wonderful, I thought. Like, I could separate the dialogue from the shots. And I thought the action scenes were great. I loved the whole, like, the one single shot, like, through the thing
that was
down.
good.
I was like, okay, that's dope.
He did a mostly good job directing-wise.
Yeah, like when Atlantis was, like, killing people in the house, and the camera was just, like, moving around. Like, I was like,
the action scenes were pretty well shot.
Like, I'll give you credit. Like, you know.
The
VFX were not bad either. But, you know, the dialogue definitely, I agree, sucked. The story,
the
same.
It was, like, ungodly. I was literally... There were parts where I, like, muted the movie and, like, predicted exactly what they were saying and then rewinded it and then unmuted it and they said exactly what I predicted they said. And I'm like, yep, this is the most predictable script ever. And what kills me is one of the two writers in that movie was the protege of Frank Darabont. And I don't understand how a guy who studied directly under Frank Darabont could be that bad of a writer. But, I mean, whatever. Yeah, that... but I think, you know, at the end of the day, everybody can agree that, like, regardless of how important, you know, you consider the screenplay, it is an important piece. But it's not the only thing that matters, you know? It's like you said, there are, like... plenty of other things that, like, you know, obviously go into the movie that, like, can make or break it. And there are times where you can improvise it, like those guys did with that project. And it, like, kind of, you know, just really works out. And I think that's a cool thing to do, is, like, kind of just do it on your own and just, like, see where you go with it and just, like, kind of, you know, because if you execute it right, that can go really well, but most people don't usually, is the problem.
Yeah, I want to see, like, a David Lynch script, like, especially, like, Twin Peaks Season 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. He does, or, like, you know, any movie where he does something that's, like, totally wild. Like, I want to see how he describes that, like, in the script, exactly. Like, some things, like, make sense. But, like, if you see Twin Peaks Season 3, when you do, there's, like, one whole episode that, for most of it, there's no dialogue, just things happening. And I can't quite explain what it is, other than, like, you know, I mean, I could explain, but I don't want to spoil anything. Not that it's a spoiler.
Is it at all like that cool dream sequence from the first season? Because I've only seen the first season.
Not that I can remember.
The little person.
No, they have scenes, a lot of scenes like that, but that's not even the scene I'm talking about. I can't explain it with, like.
Is this the one that I've heard about, like, where it's like 40 minutes of just, like, visuals and shit?
It's like the whole episode's pretty much 40 minutes of visuals, and like you go into an atom bomb. But you start out from, like, very far away, and it just gets closer and closer, and it's just so slow, and then it just goes into it, and it's just like
right.
And then, like, all this crazy music's playing, and then all of a sudden it stops being images and starts being just flashes of color, and then flashes of shapes, and you're like, and literally you're just sitting.
Peaks?
Yes, and you're just sitting there for, like, a good 20 minutes, like, yay, and you just love it, and I'm like, at the same time, like, how did David Lynch put that in a script? Like, did he just say, you know, what did he say? Like,
I think that's a good example of, like, how important everything is. It's like, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but, like, it's possible he just conceived the idea, wrote it down, but then it took either him or somebody else, I don't know, to actually translate it to the screen, and that obviously, if it's a visual thing, that's more important there than like a script would be.
Maybe he wrote down like kind of like a feeling or something, something that's like not
that sounds
just
like David Lynch.
Yeah,
like something that's not really like
just
distinctly what you're seeing, but just
right.
like what it feels like.
I would love to read one of David Lynch's screenplays because I just feel like that would be such a crazy experience.
Yeah.
Because watching one of his movies is one thing, but like reading like the script for Mulholland Drive, for instance, I imagine that would just be like a trip in its own right.
Yeah, because like there's that one scene in the movie where the sound just goes out and the actors are just talking, and I'm like, did you write in the screenplay?
Mulholland Drive?
Yeah, there's like this scene. It's not really like important, but like there's actors just talking, and they just all of a sudden the sound just goes out and then goes back up. And I swear to God, me and Sam were like, we were like in high school when we were drunk, and we were like, are we tripped? Like, what's going on? And then like it came back up, we're like, and we turned up, like we made sure the TV wasn't muted or anything. And we're like, okay, that's just David Lynch fucking with us. But I was like, did he write? Because he had to clearly write dialogue because they were talking still. So they had to say something during that time. Right. And I was like, did he just write in the script, like, the sound goes out while this happens and then write the dialogue? Or did he just write the dialogue and didn't tell the actors in the editing room, like, told the editor, like, yeah, just take out the sound real quick. And put it back.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder how that was written in the script.
Yeah, like, that was one of the
Could have been just an editing choice.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was probably just, like, in editing. He was like...
Because David Lynch kind of seems like he could be like that Terrence Malick type of guy where he just gets really experimental in the editing room.
Yeah. That makes sense from what he does, like, especially Twin Peaks. Yeah. Like, dear God, the new season. Neither of you guys have seen it, have you?
No, I haven't even seen the first season. I need to.
Yeah, I know it.
Because I haven't watched the first two seasons because totally I don't know where to find the third season.
Oh, yeah. It's on Showtime.
I don't have Showtime.
Yeah. The first two, really good, and then, like, obviously it's, like, new,
right.
in the... But it's, like, totally different, like... It's, like, it takes the second season and just...
Yeah.
It goes through the roof.
Interesting. David Lynch, another great writer. And so is Mark Frost, who co-created Twin Peaks with him.
Okay.
He also, believe it or not, wrote the Fantastic Four movies.
Really?
Yeah. That always really shocks me.
Actually, well, as a kid I liked them, but
I still like them, but like I acknowledge they're not the best movies ever.
100%. Yeah. I'm not
they obviously could have done way better, but I think for what they are, they're fine. But what was I going to say? One of the few screenplays, I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a part of the Pulp Fiction screenplay where it was the Say What Again scene. And that was so, just reading that was fascinating to me because it made me want to read the whole script kind of, because Tarantino is like very unnecessarily descriptive in his screenplays, because like you were saying before we started, he writes his scripts like a novel, so he gets very descriptive with it. And it was just it was nice because it's one of those situations where it's like, if you're reading the screenplay, he still makes it entertaining for you.
Yeah.
Instead of just like words and screen directions or whatever. And he just like because it was. What was it that he said in the script? It was the part where he's like, getting right up in Brett's face, and like rather than just saying like he flips the table over, he flips the table over and like moves in on Brett like a prisoner in an interrogation camp or something like that, and he gets like really descriptive with it, and I like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that helps the actors too.
True.
Like know what to do exactly and like what mindset to get in.
I mean, there's
see, that's like in my screenwriting classes, I'm always taught to make it as concise and to the point, so there's more to interpret. And same with directing, like you don't want to like make the actor like conscious, like self-conscious about their performance. They want to like you should like lead them into a direction, but don't just be like this.
Yeah, that's very true.
So it's not just like the actor should know what to do just based off of like the director, not really like the screenplay. But it's like, yeah, that's sort of
yeah. But like, I mean, because like that's the thing is like it is mostly like the director has to kind of guide the actor, not tell them like you said exactly what to do, but more just kind of like give them direction. But it does help like if you're reading the script for the first time and something like that is in there, it like kind of clicks in your head, like okay, well that's a good like direction for me to have as I'm reading it. Kind of helps you like form the character in your mind.
If you're Tarantino and you're an auteur, I guess it's different. But it's like how many successful auteurs are there, you know?
Yeah.
Well, there's literally a whole, like, for the Jackrabbit Slims opening, there's a whole paragraph in the action where it's just him talking about Jackrabbit Slims. But, like, in weird description where he's like, in the late 90s, there isn't many, like, restaurants like these, and he goes in, like, I can't remember exactly, but if you look it up, it's like a thing. And you literally would never get that from, like, reading anything. But he went and said that about
no one could ever
Slims.
sell that screenplay nowadays. Because, like, no one will take something that's that descriptive. They're like, oh, look at this fucking guy, you know?
Yeah. I know.
They're just like, get to the point already, you know?
Well, the Reservoir Dogs screenplay I did read, because I got that at, like, a thrift store, and that was actually pretty concise. It did have, like, some wild descriptions, but they weren't as, like, wild as Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Like, Reservoir Dogs was more like, this is, the story, for the most part.
Right.
Wasn't that supposed to be a play? At some point?
No idea.
That would make sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do have a play version.
That would make sense. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw, like, Reservoir Dogs play pop up, because you could do that easy.
I mean, a lot of his movies seem like they could be plays. Like, Hateful Eight could be a play.
Oh, I think they did do it as a staged reading.
They did, yeah, because that was before he decided he was going to make it.
Yeah.
Because the script leaked and he was like, well, I'm just going to do a staged reading. And then he was like, nah, fuck it, I'll make it.
Yeah. Have y'all seen the extended version?
I haven't, and here's why. I was really excited about it at first when it got released, but then my brother saw it and he told me about it, and he was like, basically, it's all the extra shit that they cut out of the movie that didn't need to be there. And I was like, and he was telling me a lot of examples, and I'm like...
See, like, there are editors for a reason...
Yeah, right.
Like
there's a reason that you cut stuff out of the movie. Is kind of what I've heard the miniseries is like.
It's an extended. You know what I mean? When you get an extended version, I don't know what you. But it is. When I saw it, I was like, I expect to see every little scene where I was kind of confused on the cutting, and I did for the most part. There was a lot of I felt like there was a lot of small interactions with Joe Gage and Oswaldo and Bob that just kind of small, but they just got cut, and that kind of builds to their character more than it did, where Joe Gage seemed kind of obvious bad guy when they gave him a lot more dialogue and made him seem more okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean there are changes like that work, but just most of them,
and General Smithers too. It makes there's more credibility to Samuel Jackson's story with what happens, and there's literally just 2 lines of dialogue.
But to me, it's the way the movie
it's just small
was and that's another thing that's interesting to think about is how editing can change the pace of a screenplay, because obviously the writers write them at a certain pace with a certain, at a certain speed. But sometimes, when you go to the editing room, it gets changed around a lot, and it's just interesting to see how it can be affected by that. And a big example is Black Panther, where originally they wrote that the script for that was much longer. There was a 4-hour cut of that movie at one point, and they managed to cut it down to 2 hours.
Damn.
And I'm just like, wow, the fact that they managed to cut it in half, basically, 2 whole hours out of this movie, and it still flows so well, and it's still so tight. You can tell at some points that there were things that were cut out, but for the most part, considering how much they cut out, it was really well paced and everything. And I was like, wow, I'd like to see the 4-hour cut just to see how it all was initially.
Yeah.
But yeah, what exactly, they cut out. And then another example of how, editing can help a script is The Lord of the Rings. Because, have you seen the extended versions?
No, I've only seen them once. For the most part.
I've never actually watched the extended versions all the way through, because what happened was I was conned. I saw on Fandango once that they were putting all 3 of them back in theaters for a couple of days, and I was like, fuck yeah, man, I'm going to go see these, it's going to be awesome seeing them in theaters. And I didn't realize until I got there, because it didn't fucking say on Fandango, that they were the extended versions.
Yeah.
And once I got there, I walked out pretty soon. But I stayed around long enough to see some of the stuff they cut out, and I was like, yeah, there's a reason that they cut this out. This didn't need to.
The thing about editors is that editors aren't attached to this footage.
That's
they
yeah.
know what makes the story better.
Exactly, because like a director might be like, oh, but I really want to keep that, and the editor's just like, nope, this has to go.
Well, it depends on whose final cut, you know what I mean? Because if the director has final cut, he can be like, well,
it is like a
you worked for me
collaborative
at that point, yeah. But
and
usually, like, the director's sitting there, like, telling him what he kind of wants, and then I'm sure the editor, like, gives his 2 cents.
But like, if that situation arises, you know, the editor can just be like, well, I know I'm not attached. But usually, yeah, it is more of like a collaborative process.
It is a collaborative process.
Yeah.
But the editor knows better because he's an editor, not a director.
And he's, again, like you said, not attached, and he does this for a living.
And he, like, what matters, like, all in all, is the story, not this really cool shot or this really cool scene.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Just if it is better for the story to cut certain things out, you know.
Right. And sometimes, even if it's something you really like, you gotta make sacrifices.
Oh, yeah.
Kill your darlings, as I say.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see, like, what, you know, they have to sacrifice sometimes. Scenes that they might really like, you know. That it's interesting from, like, both the writers and the director's standpoints. Because, like, you know, if it's a situation where it's like a guy wrote it and then another guy's directing it, and the director has to cut it out, he may care because he may like that scene, but not as much as like a writer, you know, who like has handed his baby off to somebody else and they're like messing with it, and he's just like, oh no, I don't want you to, you know. I mean, I know a lot of writers know that's part of the gig, but it's still, I'm sure, upsetting.
You talk about the Boondock Saints script?
Yeah, and how the guy, I guess we should probably go ahead and get into specific scripts at this point. And yeah, we'll start with Boondock Saints. Weird one to start with, but it is actually, despite what the critics say, an amazing script.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is one of those few instances where the screenplay was so good it sold out the fucking ass. And it was like a dream. Have you seen the documentary on that?
I need to. Like, I've heard a lot of the stories from that documentary, but like, I know there's a lot that I still haven't heard.
Especially because you get to see, like, it's a first-hand account. There's videos of him, like,
yeah.
You know, we'll get into it, but like, it's very home footage-y.
Right, because, like, that's the thing that I thought the first time I saw the Boondock Saints was, like, why did this guy not do anything else? And then I'm pretty sure you were the one who told me, like, because he was an asshole who completely, like, destroyed his career by talking shit.
Yeah, he talked shit to the wrong person. Harvey Weinstein.
That guy. But, yeah, that's, he definitely shouldn't have done that. Because it completely... The only thing he has done since then is Boondock Saints 2,
yeah.
Which I still haven't seen. And now Boondock Saints 3 is canceled.
Yeah, he was making a TV show last time I heard, but I don't know if that's the same thing as Boondock Saints.
It's not going to have the two guys in it, so what's the point?
No, it was going to do a prequel, yeah. He was like doing a casting call for like younger actors.
How's he going to do a prequel if they had never done anything until the movie?
That's a good question.
That,
you know,
is stupid as fuck.
I don't know,
but,
maybe it's a prequel to 2?
Who knows?
Who knows?
It shows what happened to Willem Dafoe. But, yeah, because
I liked him in that. He was good in the Boondocks.
Yeah, except for that one scene where he's like more over the top than anything I've ever seen.
I thought that was great.
That was ridiculous.
I liked it. Max, you've seen the Boondock Saints, right?
No.
It's a good movie. It's not bad. It's solid. Especially the first one.
The first one. I haven't seen the second one. The first one is like really, really great. Has a really solid script. Doesn't have the best reputation with critics.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm going to tell them the story.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like, the story is, like, Troy Duffy, the guy who wrote it. So, he was a bartender in Boston at this restaurant, or at this bar. Not restaurant, bar. And who comes in one day but Mr. Harvey Weinstein? He sits down, starts talking to him. He pitches the idea for the Boondock Saints. Literally, Harvey Weinstein says, okay, I'm going to buy your script, I'm going to buy this bar. And he does both of those things. And then overnight, like, the bartender, Troy Duffy, like, made million, you know, he was like, or, you know, he became like, you know.
Wait, the bartender pitched him?
Yes, and he became, like, he's the director, he's the guy who made the Boondock Saints. He was a bartender who pitched it to Harvey Weinstein, who loved it about the two brothers who, like, are vigilantes, and but the guy, you know, God called on him and everything. And, basically, so he started, like, trying to make the movie, and then he started getting, basically all he would do is spend all the money he had on alcohol for everyone, like buy everyone round to the bar, they'd get drunk, and he'd talk about how he's going to be the best thing ever, they're going to take over Hollywood. There's like footage of this, like it's not, you know, you can't deny it.
There's a whole documentary.
Yeah, the whole documentary that I watched, and he literally like was talking shit about Harvey Weinstein, that got back to Harvey Weinstein, all of a sudden the movie was canceled. Then there's the whole money thing, and Troy Duffy was fighting over his script, and then he finally got to make it, then lo and behold, what happened? Columbine. And then the movie got delayed even more and only put out in like a few theaters, and that's why it's a cult hit. Is because it could have been something big, but it got completely.
It got put out in like just a couple theaters for a week because they were going to release it like the day that Columbine happened, and then they had to delay it
because they wear like pea coats and like trench coats and shit. Yeah, and literally it was just like the worst timing ever for that man.
Arrogance will be the end of you.
It really will.
Yeah.
Because then he made Boondock Saints 2, which was not nearly as good as 1, but not awful. The ending was better than anything. The third act, like, is a lot better.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's not quite as good as the first one.
No, it's not quite as good. But like the third act isn't bad. It sets up for a good 3, but they are not going to make 3. But it set it up for a great 3, in my opinion. If they made 3.
Huh. Well, I mean, I guess they won't now, but we'll always have the first 2, and the first one had. I remember just watching it and just being like, this. I cannot believe this guy did not make anything. I was like, how did, like, this is, like, such an incredible screenplay, like, legit.
And it was well shot, too, like, for a first-time director who had no idea what he was doing.
Like, that was his first thing.
Well shot, yeah.
And this fucking random-ass bartender guy, you know? It's just a shame that he was an arrogant piece of shit.
But, you know, from a Boston bartender, what can you expect? You know, like,
I also heard, wasn't it, like, based on a real-life thing? Like, he saw something go down in his apartment complex, and that's what like inspired him.
Yeah, because he saw like somebody. Yeah, he saw something going down. He didn't do anything about it. I think. I don't know.
I don't know somebody.
I don't know exactly.
It was something like that. So that's always interesting when like you know the inspiration.
Yeah, that's a you know script that.
Yeah, that is definitely
a famous script by itself.
Definitely a standout script. Let's see what else we got on here. Oh my god. One of the best screenplays ever written, ever. Don't at me, not that you would. Network.
I just saw that for the first time the other day.
Oh, what'd you think?
Yeah. Solid.
It's on Netflix, yeah. Got back on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
I might have to watch it again. Because, like, oh my god, I cannot talk enough about that movie. I talked about it a lot in the 70s episode, and now I'm going to talk about it more because I can't stop myself.
I watched it without knowing anything about it, and it really caught me off guard, like, at the beginning when the whole thing started. So
a lot of... The only part that really... Well, no, there were a couple parts that caught me off guard. It was good at that. But the part that caught me off guard the most was, like, a scene that I mentioned last time that was, like, one of my probably top 5 favorite scenes in any movie ever, which is the scene where Ned Beatty like gives him the big speech in the room. I did not see that coming. Maybe I should have, but like he totally flipped everything around so fast. Like, oh, we're just gonna come in here and have a friendly chat, and then like the fucking like drapes close and like he just totally corners them and gives him this big ass speech, and my face was like Peter Finch's face in the scene where I was just like totally shocked, and then I was very surprised also. Do I need to throw out a spoiler alert? It's like 40 years old, but whatever. If you haven't seen that work spoiler, they kill him at the end, and I didn't see that coming either. I was
honestly, when that scene started, I was like, he's gonna die. I saw the way the people were like shifting around. I'm like, something's gonna happen. I can see it.
Yeah. It was just like, again, maybe I should have seen it coming, but I don't know. I remember like, because Faye Dunaway just casually says like, let's kill him, fuck it. I'm like, they're not gonna kill him, right? And then they fucking gun him down, and I'm like, well, alright then, there you go.
But with the ending, after they kill him and they show like, you know, him being dead with all like the commercials next to it, and then they're like, we'll be right back, you know, I just thought that was great. Yeah. Like, that was a great way to, and that's a great note to end it on.
But all around, just an absolutely incredible script. Obviously, it won like the Oscar for Best Screenplay, which it deserved. And then let's see what else we got here. Oh my god, have either of you seen Slumdog Millionaire?
No.
Oh my god, it is like legitimately one of the best. Fucking shout out to Simon Beaufoy, who I probably won't get to later. Like, amazing writer. This is like his best thing. That was just like one of the best screenplays I've ever. Basically, do you know what it's about?
A guy is suspected of cheating on Slumdog. Oh, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, basically, but like that's like the framing device, basically, where it's like he's on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the Indian version, and they suspect him of cheating, and they're like, how do you know? Right, like every answer, they show how he learned that answer at some point in his life, and it like takes him through his whole life from when he was a kid in the slums to like
based
now.
On true story, right?
No.
Huh.
I don't think it is.
That's a weird,
it's based on a book,
weird idea, yeah.
I think. But yeah, it's insanely good, and it like, you know, really just, it's one of those movies where it's like you actually feel like you know the character's whole story, you know, rather than just like you don't come away feeling like, well, I want to see more of like what happened to him, you know? Like I feel like I know his entire journey, and I'm satisfied with that.
Oh, it is a true story.
It is?
Yeah. Oh wait, never mind. It's not.
Oh, that's what I thought. I was like, it's based on a book, right?
I was about to say, that'd be wild.
That would be crazy.
It was on.
I just googled Slumdog Millionaire true story and something came up. And never mind.
Yeah.
There's actually a dog millionaire, and his name is Slum.
Damn.
Shut the fuck
up. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. I think, okay, another one of those screenplays like adaptation, you know, that will really, I think, inspire you as a screenwriter is Barton Fink. That's like...
I never finished that film. I don't...
You never finished it?
How could you not?
The ending
I don't...
is like the best.
I was just
How far
like,
did you get?
I don't remember, honestly. It's been a while, but I
Yeah.
watched part of it, and I think I fell asleep or something.
The ending is the big like
the part with John Goodman.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Running down the hall.
Ooh, that was crazy. But yeah, so then let's see what else we got. Either you've seen Birdman.
Maybe I've seen Birdman.
Birdman's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that has, again, probably one of my favorite screenplays like ever.
Yeah, it has to be a good screenplay for doing it all in one shot.
Yeah,
like,
and
you have
that's
to somehow morph it.
Yeah,
to make sense.
That was like, I remember just watching that in theaters for the first time and just being absolutely blown away. Yeah, Birdman had like an amazing screenplay, and then, but yeah, just so many. Let's just scroll down, see what else we got. Any catch your eye?
In Bruges? Oh, not In Bruges. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Anything from Martin McDonagh.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Even Seven Psychopaths.
Any of it? Have you seen any of his stuff?
Is great. You've seen 3 Billboards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, In Bruges.
Loved it. In Bruges is still my favorite movie of his.
I still have 3 Billboards. Took it for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It came close, but like, I mean, you can't beat In Bruges.
No, In Bruges is great. It's like my second. I love
that.
In
Is
Bruges.
such a just wonderfully weird movie. I just love it. And then Seven Psychopaths is pretty cool too.
I feel like Seven Psychopaths is like, yes, it is like literally in the middle, like technically in his filmography, but I feel like the feeling of it is very in the middle between 3 Billboards and like In Bruges to me, in a good way. Like it reminds me of like smack dab in the middle. Plus it's got Colin Farrell and Sam Rockwell, and, then,
and Christopher Walken.
Yeah, you know.
Very great cast in that one.
Oh no, I was gonna say because Colin Farrell's in Bruges, Simon Rockwell.
True.
Both together.
And Woody Harrelson was in Seven Psychopaths and 3 Billboards.
Yes.
So yeah, all the connections.
Yeah, and I feel like it's you could watch them all in a row almost and it makes sense.
Yeah.
To you're like
Yeah, and then oh my God, okay, again probably one of the greatest screenplays I've ever seen. That was a play at first. Glengarry Glen Ross.
I've seen that a long time ago.
Oh my God! And here's the crazy thing. That's like a big example of like them adapting it to the screen well, because you know the famous Alec Baldwin scene.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the play.
That's surprising.
That's like the most famous scene in the movie that wasn't even in the play.
You know they show that to like salespeople, right?
Yeah.
Like my dad has he's told me, he was like, yeah, I've seen that in like introductions like multiple times. Mm-hmm. They play that scene and I'm like, interesting.
Yeah. I always love hearing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
that's the Boss Baby. I'm sure they made a reference to it. I think they did actually.
Probably
in the
that would be a mistake if they didn't.
Yeah.
I saw an SNL version once where it was like he was the leader of Santa's elves or whatever, and he was given the same speech but like a Christmas version.
Was it released to Alec Baldwin?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Because he was the host, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that had like a really just like. That was a very well-rounded movie in terms of like, everything it did well. But the screenplay, I think, was like one of its biggest strengths, obviously, because it's from David Mamet, who is like a fucking genius.
Yeah.
And that Alec Baldwin speech was obviously amazing, a highlight for sure. And that was a sad ending that movie had, because like, I mean, that was one of the few times where like there's no silver lining to be found,
Yeah.
He just gets fucked.
Yeah.
Like, completely. There's no, like, oh, well, at least he, or, oh, well, mate, like, no, he's just completely fucked.
Yeah.
And it's sad. But, yeah.
thought of another writer because you were talking about plays.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Mammoth, so I thought of Neil Simon.
Yeah.
And Odd Couple.
Oh yeah, I can't believe I forgot he wrote that.
Yeah, I can't tell you about the TV series, but I do love the movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen either, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was when I went into it too. I didn't know it was a play. I knew it was a movie. I didn't know it was a play.
Yeah. And
I was like, and I saw Neil Simon, and it said by the play by, and I was like, oh cool. And I found out like as I was watching the movie.
Right.
And I was like, I didn't know it was like all very like isolated to the apartment.
Yeah.
Or like how witty it was, and I was like, this is great.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, it's always interesting when playwrights try to write. It doesn't always work, but it does sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and sometimes it's not even their fault, like August Wilson with Fences. Like, it's not his fault that Denzel just did a really shitty directing job.
I didn't see.
And that's a good example of, like, how bad direction can ruin a great script. And, vice versa can also happen. But, yeah, another one of the greatest that I just thought of, I'm pretty sure it's on here somewhere, The Lion in Winter. Have you seen that? Either of you? It's like, do you know what it is at least? It's this movie from it's this movie from the 60s where it's about some fucking king from forever ago. I think it's like Richard II or something. Some fucking king, but like some English king, like I think it was King Richard II, and it's about like him and his family like vying for power, like because he has to choose an heir from like his 3 sons, and he wants a certain one, and his wife wants a certain one, and they all want it, of course. And the whole movie is basically like, it's so amazing. It's so gripping. It's like a big chess match where they're all just like trying to vie for the throne and like connive and like plot and like get their way to it, and they're all fighting with each other. And it's so well written. It's so suspenseful, where it's just like every time like somebody makes a move, you're like, how the fuck are they going to get out of this, And then the other person makes a move, and it's like, holy shit, what a chess match, And it's just, like, phenomenally well written. But it's weird, though, because, like, about, like, most of it is, The first, like, 15 minutes of that movie are really weird. I don't know if it was, like, just me, or if it was, like, legitimately, like, the first 15 minutes of that movie were really weird. But, like, so much of it is so well written, but then the rest of it is just, like, there's this scene where, like, because, like, the king and the queen, like, they don't like each other. Like, they're the main two who are, like, plotting against each other mainly. But, like, there's a scene earlier on where she goes, like, well, despite all our problems, like, you'll always be my king. And he's like, and you'll always be my lady. And then literally the next scene, she goes, like, Richard, did you ever love me? No. Good. Then this will be much easier then. And I'm like, what the fuck did you just say in the last scene? Like, I don't get it.
Is this written and starring Kenneth Branagh?
It seems like
directed and starring.
It seems like it should have been. Yeah, but no, it's the guy who plays the king is Peter O'Toole, and Katharine Hepburn plays the queen.
Oh, it is 60s. I forgot you said that.
Yeah, and Anthony,
I was thinking like maybe 90s.
Anthony Hopkins is one of the sons. Oh, sure. That was like his very first movie. Yeah, and it's weird because he's like really young. But
for a second I thought that was a thong you just pulled out.
I thought so too. I was like, where did you get that?
I was like, I knew you didn't get it from like anywhere over there.
Max just randomly pulled out a bandana, and we thought it was the thong. In case you're confused, but yeah, that's definitely just one of the best screenplays I've ever seen. And okay, I'm gonna wrap it up again. Can't talk about everything. I'm picking some weird ones here. Like most people would say, like Chinatown, or like like some other ones that I'm not mentioning. And Chinatown obviously deserves a shout out because that's one of the. But we're
gonna talk about Transformer: The Last Night.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, so Transformers: The Last Night, right? Here's why it's the greatest screenplay ever written.
It's because Michael Bay.
Because Michael Bay, a lot of people talk shit about Michael Bay, but actually the guy's kind of. I can't even joke about it. But no, I was gonna say Falling Down.
Oh yeah.
Which
that movie, actually.
You were the one who showed me that the first time. I thank you for that because that is now one of my favorite movies ever. And again, that was like a Boondock Saints situation where I just could not believe that guy has not written anything else since then.
Who did it? I forgot. I don't remember.
Some guy named Ebro Smith is the guy who wrote it, and then Joel Schumacher directed it.
It's because he probably fucking went crazy and started killing people.
Perhaps. I heard he actually is like a screenwriting teacher now.
No, that's cool.
So
I'd like to learn from the guy who wrote Falling Down.
I mean, yeah, if I'm taking pointers from somebody, I'm taking pointers from the guy who wrote Falling Down. Yeah. Have you seen it, Max? It is. It's a fantastic movie where Michael Douglas plays like this office worker who like everything in his life is shitty, and one day he just like is stuck in traffic, and he just decides like right then and there he's fed up with it, and he just gets out of his car and just like starts walking home, and as he walks home,
his
like
day escalates.
Crazy shit starts happening. He kind of just starts lashing out at like all the flaws he finds in society. Like he goes to a burger place, and
oh wait, no, that's you're skipping to he's already got stuff.
What?
The first thing he does is the Korean guy.
Oh yeah, he jacks the Korean guy
like,
up.
When he goes to the burger place, he's got a bag of guns on him. At that point,
he like but like
he goes from like no guns to guns.
He's got like not even just like pistols, like legit like
Uzis, shotguns.
And Robert Duvall plays the detective who's like trying to track him down and like stop him.
It's all in a 24-hour like period too.
Yeah, it's in one day, so
and
it's like
it goes wild. Like he just starts. It's honestly it's like one of those movies that brilliantly just like escalates slowly but like perfectly.
Yeah, and like it really and again that's good scripting. You know the way it just builds like that.
You know, Big Daddy stole the joke because you know how he goes in the breakfast place, like you said, and they're like, you know, you stop serving breakfast at like 12 a.m.
Yeah.
And Big Daddy did the same thing in that movie, except for he didn't, you know, go crazy.
No. And that was amazingly enough directed by Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
Who I know, right?
He killed it in that.
He actually did a really good directing job.
Yeah, it's one of his few good movies.
I was very impressed because I remember like when we started it and it said directed by Joel Schumacher, I was like, okay, either I'm not going to like this at all or I'm going to like the script and hate the direction. But he actually did a really good directing job, and I was like, well, shit, okay, credit where credit's due.
Yeah. And Michael Douglas, like...
Oh, he killed it.
Yeah, he, like, you know... He has a lot of good movies, but that one's definitely one of them.
I think he said that was his favorite role that he's ever played.
That makes sense.
Which makes sense, yeah. Robert Duvall was very good too.
Oh yeah, he was underrated in that.
And Chef from Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Frederick Forrest. Yeah. That's
I like when he pops up in movies.
Yeah, right. And I didn't even recognize him until you pointed him out.
Really?
You were like, that's the guy who played Chef in Apocalypse Now. I'm like, what? Yeah. But yeah, super great, and I wish that guy would write more stuff, but you know, if he doesn't want to, he's content doing what he's doing.
He got all his rage out in that script, and then he said, "Fuck it."
There you go. Yeah. Also, okay, here's one that I find interesting. Gone Girl, right?
Yeah.
Amazing screenplay. With like, it's weird because like, David Fincher, I heard edited a lot of the screenplay for that movie, because like, not a lot, like not heavily, but like. Because it was written by Gillian Flynn, who wrote the book. Yeah. And she would, like, show him the script pages, and he would just be like, okay, like, keep this exact scene, but, like, just change this word to that word, you know? And she's like, why? And he's like, it'll just sound better. And then she ended up agreeing with him, like, I thought it was weird when you said it, but, like, that does sound a little better. I don't know how, but it does. I just thought that was interesting, you know?
Fincher's crazy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. My favorite story about him, I know this is, like, technically writers, but... on the Gone Girl set, Ben Affleck, like, he knew that he was so attention to detail, so he goes over to the camera, and I think he just turns the focus ring once, and then walks away, and then David Fincher goes, hey, who was messing with the camera, like, later on, and I was like, damn, like, literally, he just goes, like, apparently he just went, whoop, and then walked away.
Nice. I just realized Ben Affleck, that was a director-on-director thing, too.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing when he was doing that. He was like, I know what I'm doing.
Interesting. But yeah, super great screen.
Speaking of screenplays, we talked about Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah. Speaking of Ben Affleck, here's the thing: when I was putting this list together, it wasn't until I put this list together that I noticed that like all of Ben Affleck's movies that he's directed actually have like really great screenplays. I was like, it wasn't just one or two; it was like all of them had like, except Live by Night, of course.
I didn't see that. I wanted to like that, but I heard it was bad.
Yeah, I heard it was bad too. But like Argo, Gone Baby Gone, The Town, all
The Town is great. I love The Town.
Oh, The Town is so fucking good.
Like Jeremy Renner kills it. Like Ben
Affleck
does kill it.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. And that script was incredible. And the script for Gone Baby Gone, and Argo won the Oscar for best screenplay.
And he wrote that, right?
That was the only one he didn't write.
Oh,
that was Chris
still,
Terrio. Who went on to do such glamorous projects as Batman v Superman
I knew you were gonna say
and
something
Justice
like
League.
I was thinking, definitely something bad attached to his name.
Unfortunately, he's gonna co-write the new Star Wars with Abrams, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, and Good Will Hunting, obviously, that was just like really bizarre that like became such a big thing because obviously
how did Matt Damon? Matt Damon hasn't written shit really since.
Because like it's generally accepted that like he wrote the bulk of that screenplay, and like
Ben Affleck just kind of.
It's not that he didn't contribute. It's
he
just
contributed
that, like,
his own character.
he kind of just like not nearly as much as Matt Damon.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Family Guy made the joke of it.
Yeah, and like yet Ben Affleck is the one who's still writing. And not Matt Damon. Like, I find that very bizarre.
Yeah. Well, there's also Kevin Smith did technically co-produce the movie, and Ben Affleck did know Kevin Smith before Matt Damon.
That makes
I'm sorry, I zoned out. What are you talking about?
Good Will Hunting.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Really? It's really good. Like,
it's amazing. It's on Netflix if you want to see it.
Yeah, like it's
it's actually it's incredible. It's like got an incredible screenplay. The scene where Robin Williams is with Matt Damon in the park.
Yeah.
Oh my God, one of the best monologues in film history.
Right. I don't even know if that was that improvised. Or, no, that was good writing.
Yeah, you think that's what won them the Oscar?
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
The rest of it was just icing. That's what got them the Oscar.
I haven't seen it, but my directing teacher would always show us the scene of Matt Damon and
Robin Williams,
that lady,
Minnie Driver.
Yeah, in bed, and then she starts screaming at him about stuff, and he talks about how he got stabbed or whatever. You know that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was like an example that my directing teacher would always like say is like, oh, look at all these subtleties in his performance. You know, it's like
yeah.
I need to see that film, but it's like that's something I always remember.
That's a really good scene.
Yeah. Have you seen Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back? Either of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Good Will Hunting to applesauce, bitch.
That was the greatest fucking scene in any movie ever.
Yeah. And Gus Van Sant's just like counting money. He's like, I don't care.
That's right.
I like how they both look at the camera. They're like, in a favor for the director.
Yeah. that movie I was watching, I was like, wow, this is a lot funnier. Like I was like, as a kid I liked it, but like I didn't realize how really like genuinely good Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was, and I was like, it's probably more people don't like this.
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is one of the few Kevin Smith movies where I don't actually think it's that well written, but it's like I like it anyway.
Yeah, it's not
like most of his movies. I will actually go to the mat on, you know.
Chasing Amy.
Yeah, like oh my God, the it's weird that the best monologue from that movie comes from Silent Bob.
Yeah,
of all people.
Yeah,
that's why he's the silent character says the most profound. You know, whatever.
Yeah. He said Silent Bob talks the most. There's this thing where somebody asked, and they're like, for a character named Silent Bob, he talks a lot. And he was like, yeah, he talks about like once every movie and twice in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back.
Yeah, because Jay points that out, and because he's like, he does this shit all the time, man, where he just talks, you know, and it's like, yeah, he does talk once a movie.
Yeah. You're waiting for that like inspirational thing. Even in Clerks II, he's like, come on, fat boy, this is like your chance to shine. Like, this is where you say some inspirational shit. And he's like, I got nothing. And he's like, fuck you, you asshole. And he starts like cussing out. He's like, you're always with the fucking calling me fat boy and shit. Fuck you. Clerks 2 is good. That had actually a good, like, that was a good screenplay.
That's one of the few Kevin Smith movies I still haven't seen.
Yeah, like it actually like is a good sequel too because it's like dramatic at the end. And I was like, hey, they finally.
I've heard the ending is pretty good.
Yeah, the ending's good.
But to me, Kevin Smith's best screenplay. Okay, this is up for debate. Because you could say Clerks, you could say Chasing Amy, and I wouldn't disagree with you. My personal favorite screenplay of his is Dogma.
Yeah.
Because, like,
that
is him at, like, his most creative. Yeah. Like, that is my favorite movie of his for sure. Because, like, the creativity in that movie was just, like, unbelievable, you know? And the journey was actually, like, it was a really... that's one that I don't understand why people don't fuck with that one. It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, that's him at his best to me. Like, that and Clerks, you know?
Have you seen Red State?
Yeah. That's the only Kevin Smith movie I straight up don't like.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know we talked about this. I loved Red State. I thought it was good.
I mean, like, John Goodman's part at the end was fine, but, like...
I thought like Michael Parks.
I liked Michael Parks when I could understand what he was saying, which was only about half the time.
Just throw the subtitles on. That's
yeah, I guess. Because, like, he obviously had that big-ass, like, 10-minute speech.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand almost any of what he was saying there, and I was like, is he saying something important? I hope not, because...
That's just crazy shit.
Yeah.
Max, have you seen Red State?
Which one?
Red State. Kevin Smith's, like... It was probably his only straight-up, like, horror film with barely any comedy in it. Like, barely. Maybe... one or two scenes of comedy that are like actually genuinely like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like Kevin Smith like poo comedy,
Yeah.
except for at the very end, which was not poo comedy, but like zany. It was just kind of like, that's kind of funny, but I liked it.
Red State was like his test, like his first attempt at doing a horror movie.
He just said fuck it at that point.
And he had no idea how to do one, but then he got the kinks out, and then when he did Tusk, he actually knew what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, he was also fighting the Westboro Baptist Church at the time of Red State.
He was fighting a lot of stuff. He had to completely self-finance that movie.
Yeah,
because he kind of screwed himself over at the festival.
Yeah, but he always was protesting. I don't know. I just thought
I admire what he was. I admire what he was trying to do, but it did definitely hurt him a lot in a lot of ways. He's finally getting his credibility back with the Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people in that movie.
Chris fucking Hemsworth.
Yeah. Joe Manganiello, what?
Rosario Dawson, who was in Clerks II.
Yeah, I was about to say that makes sense.
Method Man and Red Man.
I can see that too.
Yeah.
How High is a good movie.
And then Clerks also had a great screenplay.
It did, yeah.
And that was good. The 90s were an interesting time, for those kinds of movies, because Clerks and Office Space, both two very well written, hilarious movies that were kind of the first ones to do what they did.
Yeah.
Clerks.
Well, Clerks was kind of Slackers, or that's where Kevin Smith got the idea. Was from
True
Slackers.
enough. It was early on though.
Yeah.
It wasn't that common.
It was where that was starting to get
a movie set in a convenience store that just shows their day. Kind of wasn't a very common thing. And then Office Space was the first time that it's impossible to think with shows like The Office now.
Yeah.
That there was a time where office related shows or movies weren't a thing, but Office Space was kind of the first mainstream one to do it. So
was it really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I was watching Office Space with Sam, and my roommate at the time, Abshek, who worked at an office for paychecks. It was a paycheck office. He still chilled, but he worked in an office basically, and he came back. There's the Indian friend.
Yeah.
And he caught his eye. And he sat down with us and chilled and watched the movie. And he really thought it. He was laughing more than me and Sam were laughing.
Oh yeah.
Because he got it. He got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was that's funny that he actually he has more of an understanding of this world, and it's probably a lot funnier to him than it is.
Yeah, and
to us.
that's the great thing is that it's relatable to guys like that,
Yeah, there's somebody out there who's I get it.
Right, right. And yeah, that really funny script. Yeah, and then just too many to name. Too many just great screenplays to name. But I feel like we've covered quite a few, and then one person. Okay. I'm not going to talk about too many more writers, but there is one guy in particular that I have to shout out because he's one of my biggest writing heroes ever. Eric Roth. Shout out to Eric Roth, who wrote Forrest Gump and Munich and a bunch of stuff. The Insider, Ali, Benjamin Button. I love him to death, and I think it's disappointing that he was involved with The New Star is Born because I didn't like that.
You didn't? I liked it. I thought it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, most people liked it, but
I was okay.
I didn't fuck with it at all. I liked the concert scenes.
Yeah.
That was about it. Bradley Cooper's direction brought it up a lot for me.
Yeah, I like his direction. I like his acting.
Yeah, he was, and Lady Gaga was also, and Sam Elliott.
Good. Yeah, they're all good.
The whole cast.
Yeah, I was okay. That's
Dave Chappelle was very underused. All right. Yeah, so I guess we've covered as much as we have time for without going too long.
But if you read out every script you wrote down and then just sped it up in post production.
What I did last time is that'd be funny. But yeah, so as I do at the end of each episode, I'm gonna do my Apothecary Recommends, where you guys know the drill.
Through a whole damn. There's a lot of
there's a lot of stuff. And I'll let you guys recommend something too. I'll go first, I guess, so you guys can think about whatever you want to recommend. My recommendation this week is going to be Gosford Park. The creator of Downton Abbey wrote and won an Oscar for the screenplay for Gosford Park, and it was directed by Robert Altman, who I hate that we didn't get to talk about in the 70s episode. But that was his last movie, actually. And it's weird that an American guy did a movie so British, because it's one of the most British movies you'll ever see. Shocking, right? Coming from the guy who did Downton Abbey. But it's great. It's a lot like Downton Abbey, where it focuses on these people in this estate in old 20th century England, and it's about like the rich people upstairs and the servants downstairs, and their stories and shit. And they're there for like a shooting party for the weekend, but at some point, one of the people winds up dead, and they gotta like solve the murder, find out who it was. And yeah, it's like really fantastic, and huge ensemble cast with like so many famous British actors and some famous American actors. Ryan Phillippe's in it, and Bob Balaban of all people. So yeah, just check that one out. It's definitely worth watching. And also check out Downton Abbey, because I can't recommend that enough either. Also go watch, if you have the time, what I think is the greatest student film ever made. High Stakes. I'll put a link to that in the description, probably too. That was a movie the three of us all did together that Matt wrote and directed, and me and Max starred in, and it was dope as hell. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. So yeah, you guys got something you want to recommend? You good, Max?
Fuck, I had one in my head, kinda. Oh shit, goddamn it. Oh yeah, the movie Kicking and Screaming, not the Will Ferrell movie, but the 1998, 7, Noah Baumbach movie, Baumbach.
I think it's Baumbach.
Baumbach, yeah. Movie. It was a good movie. Josh Hamilton, Perry Reeves. Trying to remember other people in it. Eric Stoltz is in it.
Oh, nice.
It's a good movie. It's a college movie, kind of, pretty much. But nonetheless, and good dialogue. Really good dialogue. Really good script. Just thinking about it, yeah, really good dialogue. Really good script.
You know what? I do have something.
All right.
The Van.
The Van or The Van?
Thieven.
Thieven.
This is what you were telling me about earlier. Like,
Theevan. It's a 30-minute animated film.
It's like Steven, but if Mike Tyson said it.
Yes. It is
another coffee house bullshit
the
joke.
greatest 30-minute short film on YouTube for free. I don't want to give any more context. You just gotta watch it. It's a very weird film. Whatever, just watch it.
Okay.
Do what the man says.
Yeah, listen, your life is on.
I've already seen it 3 times. I can't watch it again.
Watch it so this man can. What?
Yeah, you
You
all.
You two watch it. I'm not gonna watch it with y'all, but you watch it. I know you haven't seen it.
Okay. You said it's for free?
It's on YouTube.
Okay.
That's all you said.
It's for free. It's for yeah, I will definitely do that. As should you guys. So yeah, that's it for this episode. I'm sure this one's gonna come out pretty interesting. We had a lot of stuff to say. I'm gonna have to probably edit this one pretty heavily, but I feel like it turned out well. I guess we'll know for sure once we get down to editing. So yeah, as usual, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do whatever you want. As Matt said last time,
smash that like button.
Yeah, smash that like button. Make sure to ring the bell for the notifications, as all the cool YouTubers say.
Go ahead, tap that easy button.
Yeah, what he said.
Rate 5 stars. And subscribe to my channel.
Please subscribe.
Every interaction
whore,
helps.
Jackson.
Say what?
You're such a whore.
I am a
Can't believe
whore.
Our ratings for you're the
One of
sprint
those
guy.
people who does this now.
I am. It's just like
Rate, comment, and subscribe.
I am a whore, but you gotta
do views.
You gotta get your fan base up, man.
You gotta put your dick in the middle of this, so the people be like, where is it? Where is it? Like, a rumor is, in one of these guys' video, his dick just comes up in the middle of it, but I don't know which one it is, so I'll give you these.
This is a different kind of podcast.
It's a podcast with a twist.
Yes, indeed.
A lemon twist.
A lemon twist. So yeah, what they said. Bye guys. I'm sorry for being a whore. Take care.
Bye guys.